often in the defence of the humanities we have drawn on its social value, and I find this sometimes to be problematic, and for today thought how we could collectively form some structures that could support the civic humanities. So I'm looking at the problems that face us in forming true civic humanities, impact, and also addressing the wider, I suppose, exceptionalisms that has come about when we defend the humanities. So Helen Small notes that in its defence, the humanities is frequently positioned as centrally concerned with the cultural practices of reflection, argument, criticism, and the speculative testing of ideas, and that as such they have a substantial contribution to make to democracy. In the oft-trotted out defence that democracy needs us, propounded by Martha Nussbaum, Geoffrey Harpham and Francis Mulhern, among others, humanity's ability to create competent democratic citizens is presented entirely as a given. And I think what we need more of is actual tangible examples of what that looks like. All too often, this valorisation of humanity's civic value isn't questioned or contextualised or relativised. I read with interest The Heart of the Matter, a report from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences Commission, which situates humanities as, quote, the keeper of the Republic. I thought the language itself was quite interesting, positioning its potential for civic engagement front and centre. The report asserts that the humanities encourage civic vigour and prepares citizens to be, quote, voters, jurors, and worryingly, in this case, consumers. And so, for me, and given this is an American report, but often this kind of language of exceptionalism seems to appear when we defend the humanities. The Humanities World Report 2015 reveals that the humanists across the globe more often than not identify a social value to humanities research. And I'd ask you today if you identify the humanities as having social value, why, and what examples would you give? Social cohesion has emerged as a hook on which to situate humanities' contemporary application, and the new covenant neatly framed for the growing trend of funding programmes to include a social challenge dimension. The World Report suggests that the humanities benefit society by challenging established traditions, yet increasingly our ability to launch any challenge is being sometimes, I suppose, almost mired by our embattled humanities syndrome, and then the challenges we face in terms of the neoliberal managerial system of the universities. So this is, I would say, stymied our ability to truly make plain the value of the humanities, particularly through the application of our research in the public realm. The humanities has value as a refrain has become almost a cottage industry in and of itself, a sub-discipline that has spawned 1,000 conferences, collections of essays, symposia, and even monographs. And so in looking at this issue and exploring civic humanities further, I wanted to question what structures we can put in place to facilitate civic humanities exchange and to create networks and to record the actual civic humanities in action. So as we risk, in Judith Butler's eyes, becoming mired in instrumentalism, the actual action of engaged civic humanities is denied merit by university managerial systems for whom scholarly civic engagement does not warrant credit in career promotion metrics. In short, we champion humanities' civic function, but there is a refusal to reward active civic engagement within the Academy's strict governing parameters. So until our career until we can benefit career-wise by engaging in terms of civic humanities, it's going to be very difficult for us to get proper work done. And how do we address that? It's a serious issue. So recent studies, such as Doris Summers' book, The Work of Art in the World, Civic Agency and the Public Humanities, have gone a long way to show how exactly the arts and humanities can empower disenfranchised communities and address social challenges. Summers' work can be read perhaps as an optimistic counterpoint to Butler's article, which denounces neoliberal anti-intellectualism that substitutes ideologically backed obviousness for genuine thought. Summer provides for us a colourful journey across the globe that explores through a range of often quirky examples how the arts and humanities can help us not only to understand but to actively shape the public realm. And I was delighted to see in Montserrat's example the the Civic Humanities Network, because when we have something like that, it allows us to build that community, but also to record what we do, so that we can actually point to it, rather than just talk about it as something that's a given, which often seems to be the case. So the question for many scholars, of course, is to publish or to perish. And there is need then for us, and I think this will make civic humanities stronger, is to professionalise what we do, and that seems to be emerging more and more in terms of publishing about the outcomes and the impacts of civic humanities. And this will ensure that humanities scholars are recognised and rewarded by their departments for pursuing and applying their research beyond the island campus. Universities all too often expound on Newman's idea of the university while simultaneously thwarting any real civic engagement by failing to instil tenure policy that compensates such activity. Imagining America is making inroads in this area. Julie Ellison and Timothy Eatman's scholarship in public knowledge creation and tenure policy in the Engaged University makes a clear case for why we should support creative scholars who are also committed to the public good. They posit that campus community partnerships in the arts and humanities should be excellent, and therefore they need to be examined and evaluated. They acknowledge that many faculty members experience a frustrating clash between the intellectual goals, which include pursuing community-based scholarship and art making, and institutional tenure policies. Ellison and Eatman argued that to draw and to keep such talent and to encourage top-notch scholarship that contributes to the public good, we need to look hard at the culture of the academic workplace, including the places and spaces in which we do our best work. The range of scholarly products has expanded, as have the pathways for dissemination. If we care about higher education's engagement with its communities, the local impact as well as the national and international implications of faculty work must be recognised. And if we truly want to encourage the integration of teaching and action research, we must reward it at tenure time. So this pressure then to publish or perish can be addressed then by ensuring that civic engagement is recorded, explored, analysed and shared by contributing to journals open to such activity. Many new venues for civic humanities scholarship have emerged in recent years, but what would be useful as well is for civic humanities research or a discussion or a discourse surrounding it actually enters into specialised journals. So if you're working in the area of the environmental humanities, that within an environmental humanities journal that they would include an article on the actual civic humanities component, that it isn't just centred in journals that are capital civic humanities largely rich, that actually it transcends across the different journals and it becomes something that we can engage in more and more, and that actually has impact on our own careers. So what we should hope to see more of is civic humanities discussion of the case studies filtering into specialised journals rather than simply sidelining such research as practice-based. As Alan Lee asserts in Where is Cultural Criticism in the Humanities, the goal is to build advocacy into ordinary work of the humanities so that research and teaching organically generate advocacy in the form of publicly meaningful representations of the humanities. It is then that we won't have to defend the humanities. They will be so entrenched in civic life that the defence will be made by those outside of the discipline and even those outside of the academy. Another issue that I want to address that I think is important to the civic humanities and how we actually defend the humanities in its broadest capacity is that so many of students who pursue a PhD are not in any shape or form guaranteed employment. And so we have a bottleneck, particularly in countries that have experienced an economic downturn, where hiring has become, the hiring opportunities have reduced greatly. What I wanted to talk about was AltAC, which is the alternative kind of academy, as a road, as a potential road for students of the humanities to actually, I suppose, bring the civic function of our discipline out into the world. So cultivating vital connections between the academic and public worlds can enrich the civic possibilities inherent within the humanities. The humanities can help us to not only understand but to shape public policy. Along with recording, theorising and exploring civic humanities and establishing a tenure system that recognises and rewards such activity, we need to also look for new avenues in which to develop the civic humanities. The Alt-Ac, or alternative academic movement, which found flight in the face of economic contraction and the resulting casualisation of academic labour, could offer a site for a more rigorous and entrenched civic humanities. Alt-Ac creates an interstitial space for humanities scholars between the academy and the public sphere. Katina Rogers, Alt-Ac leader and senior researcher at the Scholarly Communication Institute at the University of Virginia, asserts that the persistent myth that there's nothing but a single academic job market available to graduates is damaging, and extricating graduate education from the expectation of tenure-track employment has the potential to benefit students, institutions, and the health of the humanities more broadly. Expanding the reach of postdoctoral careers beyond the non-profit world, the private sector, government offices, public media, arts administration, NGOs, think tanks, councils, libraries, journalism, social entrepreneurial endeavours, startups and elsewhere can help to leverage the very real civic applications of the humanities research and related transferable skills. There exists, however, a very real and very damaging insistence that such career trajectories suggest failure and lost potential. Michael Berube, former president of the Modern Language Association, recalled a recent Alt-Ac symposium the consternation surrounding one of his former PhD candidates choosing to leave a tenure-track position to pursue teaching in a Chicago public school system. And in fact, they actually claimed that her decision could affect his placement rate. And I think this stymies then our ability to ensure that the humanities moves beyond the island campus and actually has impact further afield. I don't really have time, but there was if we do later after the discussion, I was going to give some Irish examples of civic humanities in action. I was interested in particular because of those projects were born out of the economic collapse and the wresting of public space from private enterprise. I was interested to see if there were similar endeavours that emerged in Spain and Portugal. I have some images to show you kind of what that looks like if we have time, but we can come back to it.